My favorite part about being a business owner is you get to make as much money as the work that you put in. You have a lot more control over the hours and the schedule that you're putting in. Even though we have per se longer hours, I get to dictate when the hours occur, when the hours end, when the breaks happen, when lunch happens, and things like that. I own a business that sells Verizon 5G. My mother and father are from a small Southeast Asian country. It's called Laos. They migrated here when they're about 3 or 4 years old. So, kind of come from, I feel, the immigrant background, right? Stereotypical family. My mother and father didn't necessarily have the best education. My dad actually, I think up until now, he still can't read properly. Due to them, I think, they really helped me to be able to excel in a lot of things, schooling being one of them. And apparently business now. Being raised by parents that were immigrants was super difficult. My mother and my father, especially my mother, had really high standards. When I was growing up, she was working 6 to 7 days a week for, almost 12-hour shifts. So I really got to see a couple of cool things, like her working so hard kind of just inspired me to just be able to see how far I can go. Her working so hard also gave her the ability to say, hey, you need to do more all the time. While I was going through school, I had to take honors classes, AP classes, I had to do sports, I had to do all the extracurriculars. I had to be super involved and just trying to make sure that I had the best GPA. And most importantly, I was like the most attractive student to colleges. Because I guess to any immigrant parent, I guess the solution, especially for Asian parents, is like you need to become a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer. My parents, when they found out I was going to the business route, they weren't happy at all. They didn't really know what business was. All they saw was like the Wall Street people. And they're like, oh, these guys are not so nice. And all they do is like sales and they work like 60-hour weeks and they barely get any return. I kind of sat them down. I just broke down to how long-term it's gonna be more beneficial than if I were to go to school for like 7 years and get my doctorate and then be in debt, $200,000. So in college, I double majored in political science psychology with a minor in sociology, and I also did cheer for the University of Oregon. That was a really cool experience because the University of Oregon is like a really well-renowned NCAA Division I school. I mean, they treat all of their athletes with the utmost respect and like you're basically royalty when you're walking around. Being able to do Division I sports at that level and also being able to get my schooling at the same time, it was definitely a really cool experience. Definitely challenging though. I was waking up at like 4 or 5 a.m. I would go to bed until like 11 or 12, but it was definitely worth it for sure. The craziest thing that happened during cheer, we were doing baskets. It was like, I think it was a 4-person basket. We launched this girl. She was super tiny. She was like 4'11", at least 20 feet in the air. She was coming down. And at that time, I didn't know this, but I have a really soft nose. And instead of coning when the basket lands, she elbowed me in my face. So it sprained my nose. And then I masked up and I went to practice the next day. Another girl fell and elbowed me in my face. And then it gave me 6 stitches in the top right of my eye. It was like the craziest 1 week period I've ever had. We cheered for football, basketball, and volleyball. We had to travel a lot too. So we got to go to like the Holiday Bowl. I forgot where it was that year, but we had to cheer on some pretty big stages and do some like on-field performances, it was so scary. My favorite part about being a business owner is you get to make as much money as the work that you put in, and you have a lot more control over the hours and the schedule that you're putting in. Even though we have per se longer hours, I get to dictate when the hours occur, when the hours end, when the breaks happen, when lunch happens, and things like that. Most importantly, I think one of the biggest things for me was kind of the time invested and the outcome garnered back. We grew up in inner city Portland, so it was a lot poorer of a community. I think one really cool thing is to be able to fund sports. I was a big football guy, so I did football in high school, and then I couldn't cut it in college. I guess I just wasn't tall enough, but I would really love to be able to give back to the football team because, growing up in that, it was just always underfunded. Like we only had 2 jerseys, like 2 pairs of, pants and like 1 helmet. All right, so I think giving back to the sports that I played in. And then for my mother, I know she wants a brand new car. She's never had a brand new car from the same year. So I'd like to buy that for her cash, probably before I'm like 28. My dad could pay for his own home stuff, but my mom would do that. I think the one piece of advice to someone coming directly out of college is taking into account how much your major and its field of work will pay you over the next 10 years and how much debt has been accrued after your 4 years of university, and if it's really worth it coming out of college. When you can, do something similar to running your own business, be able to profit as much as you want, or just finding a different field of work. I think entrepreneurship is always the way to go, just for the fact that you're not limited to the amount of money you can make, right? If you want to go out there and make, $20,000 in a week, you can. If you want to go out there and make, $2,000 in a week, you can. I think there are 2 people in my life that I'm the most grateful for. One is my mother. Ever since I was born, she was always the person that was like working the hardest, right? So she worked a job at an eyeglass factory. She was working 8 to 12-hour shifts, but she was still also being a mom and making sure she's cooking the meals, doing all the stuff that needs to get done around the household. So I think seeing that really inspired me to just make sure I'm the all-around package. Like my mother taught me how to cook. She taught me how to do laundry. She taught me how to wash the dishes. Never taught me how to use the dishwasher because we're Asian, so we wash it with our hands. But I think my mom plays a really big part. She's super hard on me right now. And then another big one was my grandfather. In 2019, when COVID-19 happened, my grandfather was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. So for an entire year, you get to see like him kind of like degrade. But while that was happening, I don't think there was like a moment where he was like, I give up. And he just kept fighting and made sure that he lasted, one more year with us. And I think that was a really big benefit.